There's a look at Shane O'Connell riding Dilly Bob in the bareback. Hi, everyone, and welcome into Rodeo Houston Wrap. It is night number 3 of this Super Series 2. Now, Shane has a long way to go to make enough money to advance to be able to come back in the semifinals. Let's see if he did it, and let's see who actually advanced as we go right to the guys who called all the action, Boyd Polhamus and Bob Tallman.
Thanks, Patty. Yeah, Shane O'Connell, we kind of thought, because he was one of those NFR guys, we thought he would make it on to a semifinal, but he's leaving here hurt, I believe. Bobby was favoring his riding arm. This was a great Super Series as far as product was concerned. I mean, we saw a lot of great rides, a lot of great runs, but by people that weren't here. Cody Huber, 7-7 in round 2. Just a lot of names in this series, but the younger guys are the ones that shine.
Well, there's some Macon guys. This Leighton Berry, think about it. He's third in the world, but it's his first big time out. And there's a bunch of those guys that are just in that top 20, 25 that get a shot at $2.17 million. I said, we're putting our best foot forward, and they did.
And it showed. Let's get to the highlights. Yeah. We'll begin with the rough stock events. First up, in the bareback bronc ride. And see, this was my pick today. I said, I'm going to pick Jake Brown, and he's going to comes out, first guy to go, 87 points, but guess who Patty picked, Bob?
Well, had to be Leighton Berry.
Yep.
Here he is, third in the world from Weatherford, Texas. And this is the horse that probably helped him for that extra 3 points over Jake Brown to 90-point ride.
Well, she got 4 points, I got 3. Berry is going to win the round, but let's look at the advancers to the semifinals because that's all that matters. $6,500 for Leighton, Payton, $6,000, Brown at $35. Anthony Thomas, the Aussie-turned Houstonian, is moving on to the semis. Let's go to the bronc riding competition, the classic event. And tonight, they were a little weaker than they had been in the first couple of performances.
We'll go to Dean Wadsworth, and this big boy had a little trouble getting out on this horse, but the second time it worked. He is big and strong. The horse trying to get rid of him. He ends up with 81 points.
But Ross Griffin had his best ride of the Super Series. A real nice 82-point ride. And I said at the time this horse had a little more snap, a little more pop. You see when that horse kicks out the back end, the judges are going to give that horse some more points and the cowboy some more points. And that was enough to get Ross the win in round number 3 of Super Series 2. Wadsworth, Bohr, and Holloman placed. Who's advancing? Bohr out of consistency. Look at that. Just a couple $100 ahead of Lefty. Joe Harper from your home state of Nevada. And Ross Griffin, by virtue of his win on round 3, will be moving on to the semis in the bull riding. It wasn't pretty, Bob.
It was punishing. You're going to have a short shot at looking at Trevor Rice. He gave it all that he had for about 3.5 seconds, and then the little fat rat kicked him out of there. But somebody's got to ride one to win.
Yeah, and that somebody is Parker Cole McCown. The guy that was 90 points last night was the only guy to be able to ride for a full 8 seconds tonight. It was only worth 80 points, but that 80 points was worth $3,000. When you look at the next board, he won first 2 out of the 3 nights. Jarbo, Vastbinder, Portinier are all in the game as we go to the semifinals. And as you looked at the last Super Series 1, in the tie-down roping, all world champions, Trevor Brazil, Tyson Durfee, all those people moving forward, I could see any one of the bull riders we just showed you being the champion at the end.
Yeah, you're going to lead me there, and I'm going to agree with you, only because of what Parker McGowan's done in a couple of months ago, a month ago, and now here. That's where I'm going to go with you with him.
But I'm going with Parker, Eli, Brady.
Yes.
Any one of those guys could be there on that final night and be the $50,000 winner. Let's go to the timed events. See who is advancing to the semifinals. First up, the tie-down rope. And Ryan Jarrett, the 2015 champ, used the $50,000 he won here that year to make a down payment on some land, and now he's a rancher. 9 seconds flat, but he'd be a second off the guy who's going to win first.
Well, 6-time qualifier to the NFR and the home favorite, Corey Solomon from right out here at Prairie View. With a new horse from Brazil, he's going to step away with the win.
There it is, right on top in the round, but he's also going to win the Super Series. Solomon in front of Reamer. Huber with that 7.7 in round 2, and Ryan Jarrett sneaks in the bottom hole. We go now to the team roping. For today, it was Junior Dees and Lane Sagans. And this cowboy from South Dakota who lives his life on the back of a horse, he can sling it. 5.2 seconds to get first place money in round 3. We'll look at the round, Mr. Tallman, and at Dees and Sagans, followed by Iga, Skiza, and Graves, Begay and Pesca, familiar names on the advancers, too.
Iga Squeeza, then Graves, $13,000, $5,000 out in front of Begay and Petska. Cooper and Anderson, 75. The kids get 5 at the bottom.
All right, let's move on. Steer wrestlers, put the Phi Slamma Jam on them. This is Kalain Anders. Living in Nebraska by way of Cheyenne, Wyoming, the big boy, left torn down, nose up, slams him in 5.2 seconds.
Well, Baker City, Oregon's got a young rookie, and I'm just going to say he is no longer a rookie. That's Jesse Brown with a 4.5. He is going to take the win today for $3,000. Anders, Lord, and Culling, they got a check.
Now here are the advancers. Culling will win the Super Series. Anders, Melvin, and Brown will join him in the semifinals. By the way, that 4.5 by your Jesse. Fastest steer wrestling run of all of Rodeo Houston, regardless of Super Series. Here we go to the barrel racing. Lois Ferguson. You know, we haven't been able to say this, but she's one of the ladies that organizes the Texas circuit, and she does a great job with that. Does a great job here, finishing second with a 15.10.
Well, Lucinda Rose is back for the second year in a row, and she's going to outdo Lois. Ready? 3/100ths of a second to a 15.07. There it is, 3,000 at the top. Now, who is going to take it to right to the end? Lucinda, Jesse Telford from Idaho, Lois Ferguson, congratulations. Mary Walker, nice to have you on that list.
Yes, absolutely. Even with the 2 down barrels, the win in the round was enough to get her there. Look, Mary Walker's a household name, but probably no bigger household name than Corey Solomon. And when we come back from break, Patty Smith is going to be talking to Corey.
And he gets out great. He's got to get the cap up at the end of the rope. Needs a little bit more money. This is a Houston-born cowboy.
And welcome back to Rodeo Wrap. Joining me now, Corey Solomon, taking home first place money in Super Series 2 in the tie-down roping and advancing, coming back in the semifinals. Of course, we talked to you year in and year out. Born here in Houston, kind of grew up in Prairie View. Just what does it mean to you to be advancing, coming back in front of pretty much the hometown crowd?
It means the world. Rodeo Houston, I've had a little success, and hometown family and friends, you always want to do good, and I had to win today, and I'm just thankful it worked out.
Well, we've talked a lot throughout this Super Series about your new horse, the horse that you brought back here from Brazil. Tell us a little bit about that and how important the horse is to this event.
Yes, ma'am. I was very blessed to be able to get play this end of last year to start this season. He just makes my job so easy. He let me focus on being me. He knows his job, and that's the first horse I've had to let me do that. I'm looking forward to for the year, and I'm just thankful.
Now, someone was telling me that they were talking to you about your horse being from Brazil, that the horse actually only understood Spanish, and you kind of have had to teach the horse English. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am. He, was trained in Portuguese, so, he don't really understand a whole lot, but he knows his job. So I just kind of put earplugs in his ear and try to block out the noise, but he knows his job, and like I said, I'm just thankful to have him.
All right, we are looking so forward to seeing you back here in the semifinals, and of course, we're always pulling for you.
Thank you.
All right, we've got to take one more time out, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, Boyd and I will wrap it all up. Stay with us. And welcome back to Rodeo Wrap. Joining me now, as promised, Boyd Polhamus. And boy, talking to Corey Solomon, obviously one of our favorites. So glad to see him back healthy again and advancing. But, coming into this Super Series, we talked about this being a group of guys. A lot of them, I'm sure you have, but a lot of them I had never heard of, kind of unknowns. And, boy, did they step up to the challenge.
Boy, they stepped up in a big way. And like you said, Corey Solomon we know. And none of us are shocked to see Corey win the tie-down roping in Super Series number 2. But when you go to the bareback riding and you see guys like Peyton Hurst and Leighton Berry, these are not the Casey Fields of the sport, right? But when you watch them ride, you think they ride just as good as Casey and the other champions, the Tim O'Connells that we had in Super Series number 1. And then probably the guy that really showed up was Parker Cole McCown from right up the road in Montgomery, Texas in the bull ride. And if he didn't make a believer out of you, nobody ever will. So it's great to have that resume. And as an invitational rodeo, we're always going to have resumes. But in each of our Super Series, there's going to be people like this, probably more in Super Series 2 than we previously had, of guys that people don't know as well. But that doesn't mean they don't belong here, because they got invited.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to pull out my mom card at this point because these kids were all just such nice kids. When you talk about someone like Parker, and you come out to Rodeo Houston, and it's not even just about the events and stuff, but such great stories. And Parker is out here, he gets a 90 on those bulls, and then later that night, his little brother, little 5-year-old kid, comes out and wins the mutton bust, and it could not have been more adorable.
And they're exuberant, but yet, did you hear the crowd react when they would respond to you and say, "Yes, ma'am"?
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with age. It had everything to do with respect. And it's just great to see those kids in this sport do this well.
Yeah, so much great stuff to see and be a part of out here at Rodeo Houston. If you can make it out here, I definitely encourage you to do so. Super Series 3 kicking off tomorrow. If you can be here, come on down. If not, be sure to catch it right here on Fox Sports Southwest. We're streaming it each and every night, and you can catch us, me and Boyd, wrapping it up every third day. Have a great week, everyone. Cross, and he's not done yet. Great job, ride of the day so far.
This is Bryce. And a quick trip tonight.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if it was up to me, I'd give him a reride.
Loves going to the Ag Venture area. Now there's an educated individual. Go, Thomas, go!
And Thomas has some serious balance. He stayed right on the top all the way down and has to be pulled off by our bullfighters.